James Bucknight is
Ah,
one of
that's
my James Bucknight is one of my favorite players in this entire draft because I think he's a smooth operator, like like Rich the Kid likes to say. I think James Bucknight is a smooth player. He has smooth handle. I think to me, he's the second best scorer in this draft. Maybe third, because I think Cam Thomas is right up there, but he's neck and neck with him. I think James Bucknight has a lot of things to his game. He averaged close to 19 points per game last year at UConn, had 5.7 rebounds per game, 1.8 assists per game, and shot 45% from the field and 29% from three, but 78% from the free throw line. When I see James Bucknight, he reminds me of a taller CJ McCollum. That's what he reminds me of. At first, I looked at Bucknight and I thought he kind of reminds me a little bit of Shea, but he doesn't have that playmaking ability. I think CJ McCollum, just a guy who's going to score. That's what Bucknight is because his shot creating ability is insane. He's a three-level scorer, can score on all three levels. He hits tough shots. He can get to a spot with ease, and that's why I'd put him over Cam Thomas because I think Cam Thomas doesn't have the handle Bucknight has. Bucknight can get to any spot he wants on the court. And I think because he's 6'5", he can be a good defender. And I think in college, he was an underrated defender. I would just like him to improve his passing because I think his passing right now is not good. He averaged more turnovers than assists. He gets tunnel vision at times. Sometimes I see teams hedge off a screen and hard double him, and he just forces up a shot. He doesn't look at an open teammate. I see a lot of that in his game, and I think he needs to fix that up. But all in all, what teams are getting in Bucknight is a proven scorer, and I think the perfect fit for him would be Orlando at 8 because they need some scoring. They already have defenders in Markel and Isaac and Bomba, Wendell, probably going to draft Kuminga or Barnes. They need a guy who can score, and I think that's Bucknight at 8.
all right. Well, excuse me for my fandom a little bit. It's gonna come out. You said he's one of your favorites. He's literally my second favorite player in this draft. I'm gonna go out on a limb with some of the things I'm gonna say, but this is just my opinion. I think he personally is the best scorer in this draft. I don't think he has a weakness in his offensive game. He showed it in college. He's one of the best creators in this draft alone. A lot of and people talked about his efficiency. A lot of his efficiency is because of the shots he takes. He just takes tough shots. He kind of makes it a little too hard for himself when he doesn't really need. Plus, he didn't have that point guard in college that really set him up, and they didn't have a system for that too. So a lot of his shots was just him making something up, and a lot of them went in because he's a really good scorer. He has NBA size, he has NBA speed, he has NBA athleticism, he has NBA moves. He's just a do-it-all guy. And the three guys that popped up in my head was obviously Jordan Clarkson, OJ Mayo, and Zach LaVine. I think Zach LaVine is his ceiling. I think that is a guy he can get to at this point. And I think he has a top 5 ceiling in this draft because of the fact that he can score and the fact that he create. He's so advanced, being that he's only a year a year older than guys like Cade, guys like Evan Mobley. He's right there. So being that he's this advanced in his game, I think he has a really high ceiling. But like you said, the teams that pop up to mind, I think Golden State will be a good fit for him because of their development, because of the fact that he'll get to play with Steph and Clay. It won't be a lot on him. He can just come in and be that scorer, or he can be that 1-2 punch with Jordan Poole off the bench. Like he even said it. Or the Orlando, I think, would be a good fit for him too. I think New Orleans could be a low-key fit if they had their pick. I think that would have been a great fit. Memphis, I think, is an incredible fit for him too. I think sliding in with John Morant, that would be a nasty 1-2 punch, two guys that can create for themselves. So I think James Buckner has a lot of places where he can go, where he can just be productive. And I think, like you said, the cons, obviously, his playmaking, his off-ball ability, he kind of just stands around, doesn't really do too much. And that's something you see a lot in these scorers. They just stand in one plot. They're not really movers. I think he needs to work on that. He obviously needs to work on his playmaking. I don't think he's a bad defender. Just he needs to put a little bit more effort on defense. He has the size. But all in all, James Bucknight is a very intriguing prospect, and I think he has a very high ceiling with the right team.
I have to push back on that Zach LaVine statement because Bucknight has some athleticism, but I actually think that's one of his weaknesses. I think
Hmm.
he's not very athletic. He doesn't have
Think so?
NBA athleticism per se. When I saw him, his finishes in college, he's a very crafty player. He has great body control, But in terms of jumping out the gym, that type of ability, I don't see that. And Zach LaVine, that's what he is. He can jump out the gym. I don't see that athleticism in Bouknight. I see that more in Jalen Green. I think Bouknight has like McCollum level athleticism, maybe a little bit more. It looks better because he's a bit taller. He's 6'5", but I think he's not very athletic. He'll get by because just of his skill set and his ability to just have so many moves in his bag that he can use. But I don't think his athleticism is going to be what, sets him apart in the NBA. When I look at his ceiling, I think he's an all-star player. I think that's his ceiling, kind of like McCollum. Like McCollum hasn't made an all-star game yet, but we know he's an all-star caliber player. I think that's where Bouknight kind of falls. If he goes to the Western Conference, we might not see Bouknight make an all-star game because the Western
Facts.
Conference is packed with guards. And his floor, I think, is a role player. A Jordan Clarkson-esque type of player who can just come off the bench and be a spark plug as well. Because if he doesn't improve his playmaking, if he is a black hole on offense in terms of the ball sticks with him, that's what he'll probably be relegated to. But you mentioned it with a fit. I think Memphis, to me, is the best fit because he can take pressure off of John Moran and he can be that go-to scorer because John Moran is more of a point guard. He can score and get you 30 points if he wants to, but John Moran is way better just facilitating the ball and getting you 19 with 10 assists. And Bouknight can come into Memphis and be that go-to scorer that they need. And he also, I think he's a good shooter as well. I know his percentages don't show it because 3-point percentage was bad this past season. But like you mentioned, he took tough shots. And not only that, but if you watch him in his pre-draft workouts, he's shooting the lights out the ball. And his form, everything about him, it looks good to the point that I'm comfortable in saying he's going to be a good NBA shooter. So I think Memphis is the best fit, but I don't think he's going to go there. I do
Yeah.
think it's between Orlando at 8, and there are even talks about OKC taking him at 6 because if Scotty Barnes, let's say, goes 4, or he goes 5 to Orlando and Jalen Suggs goes 4 or 5, now OKC has a decision. Do we want to take Kuminga at 6 or do we want to take Bouknight? Because I think that's a legitimate debate.
And teams have been saying they've been higher on Bouknight
Yeah,
than
and they've been
Kaminga.
lower on Kuminga. Scouts are saying Kuminga may fall. So if Bouknight goes to OKC in that backcourt of Shea and Bouknight with the players they already have and Dort, that 3-man rotation, that'll be really fun to watch because you have Shea and Bouknight who can create and Dort who can just lock up anybody he wants because he's that great and elite of a defender. So I think that would be a good fit as well, but I can't see him dropping past top 10. I think if it's not Orlando, it's going to be Memphis. And I want Memphis to take Josh Giddey because I think that's a great fit. But if Bouknight is at 10, I would take Bouknight over Josh Giddey.
Yeah, I think with the Warriors, OKC, and Orlando and Memphis being in the top 10, I don't see him falling outside that top 10. But yeah, like you said, James Bouknight. The reason why I don't see CJ I see it, but CJ, when you watch CJ, he's more crafty in his game. He's more like, I'm gonna beat you with skill. But when you watch James Bouknight, he's that too. But it's like when I see him in the open floor and I see how quick and speed he is, that's what I see. That's what I remind, like, yo, that's really Zach LaVine, how quick he is to the basket, how speedy he gets to the basket. He may not have obviously nobody has Zach LaVine bounce. Zach LaVine bounce is obviously other word, but in that quickness and the tough shot making, I see a lot of him. CJ's more craftiness, so I see that in half court, but in the full court scheme of things, bro, that's who reminds me of Zach LaVine.
Yeah, James Bouknight is definitely one of the best scorers in this draft. You think he is a better scorer than Jalen Green? I know that's going to be a hot take for a
Yeah,
lot of
I,
people to
I
hear.
think I think people love Jalen Green. I get it, but I think Bucknight's a better scorer at this moment.